All right. Hello, everyone. Welcome to Money Talks. I'm your host, Bill Barhydt. Welcome to everyone from Philippines, United States, India, seeing Bangladesh, Turkey, Guatemala, Canada, Mexico. Love the international representation that we get here on Money Talks. Tee up your questions. We'll get to our AMA. We've got a lot of interesting topics to talk about. Fed way behind the eight ball. Crypto prices spiking today. Are we hitting the same wall of resistance again, or are we breaking through that wall of worry? We'll have some commentary on that later. I want to start out talking about blockchain crypto projects and initiatives created or led by people of color. Black History Month, as you know, and at Abra, we believe in democratizing access to crypto. Our vision is an open global financial system accessible to everyone. So in keeping with that belief and vision, and in honor of Black History Month, we wanted to recognize the promising Black-owned crypto projects and organizations leading the charge into this decentralized financial future. So I believe that crypto can provide an opportunity to build long-term wealth for any community, but obviously for communities of color as well, where traditional banking services have failed them. In fact, about 2 in 5 Black adults are likely to purchase or invest in Bitcoin, compared to roughly 3 in 10 adults overall, according to Morning Consult data. So with that having been said, today's guest, Cleve Mesidor, is the public policy advisor to the Blockchain Association. And she's going to join us to talk about how crypto can help close the racial wealth gap. She also founded the National Policy Network of Women of Color in Blockchain. She serves on the board of directors for Value Technology Foundation and Crypto Connect. She also previously served as an Obama presidential appointee, a senior staffer in Congress, and an author of the Clevevolution, My Quest for Justice in Politics and Crypto. Wow, that's a mouthful. So welcome, Cleve. We're super excited to have you here on Money Talks.
Thank you for having me. Happy Black History Month.
Absolutely. Happy Black History Month. So I wanted to start out by asking you about your work at the Blockchain Association. So tell me about how your organization advocates for policies that help blockchain networks continue to innovate in the US.
Yes, I'm thrilled to be an advisor to the Blockchain Association. I've been working with them quite a bit over the last few years, but joined them as a public policy advisor last February or April, well, actually last March. And so the work that I do is focus on diversity, equity, inclusion at that intersection of public policy. Obviously, the Blockchain Association is the unified voice for the industry, representing over 70 companies in the industry, and they advocate for public policy. Now, the work that I do it complements it in terms of making sure we're targeting the Tri-Caucus, which includes the Black Caucus, Hispanic Caucus, Asian Pacific American Caucus, but I also focus on inclusive policy making, right? Really holding members of Congress, regulators, Washington accountable for policy making that is actually inclusive. One thing that people don't realize is a lot of the inequities we have are because of the laws that have come out of Washington, and we need to do better. We need to use new data sets. So I'm thrilled to, work with the Blockchain Association on this issue and work to actually advance smart policy that not only benefits the industry, but innovators of color in the industry too.
So what kind of policies or what innovations have you either seen or want to see in blockchain or crypto specifically that can help communities of color build wealth?
Yes. Well, there's a lot going on in the ecosystem. So one thing I would like to see is more recognition of the Black and Latinx innovators who have really done the hard work, fueled the marketplace, and are really the reason why Black and Latinx communities are leading mainstream adoption in the US. So there's Tavania Evans, who created Guapcoin, a Black woman who created her own cryptocurrency, to really support economic empowerment in the Black community. It's listed on many exchanges. She recently just had a big announcement, but a Black woman creating a cryptocurrency to help support the movement is something that is wonderful. That is something that we should actually support and empower. But there's also, Jamari Peterson, who actually created Snowball. Well, he's one of the creators of Snowball, a Black male founder. It's a DeFi project. They're doing incredible things. And so those, recognizing the work that's already been done, supporting it is important. But, I focus a lot on future of work strategies lately. And one of the innovations I'd like to see is, this conversation about, mayors wanting to get paid in Bitcoin. And even I think Congressman Emmer just announced that he's going to look into getting paid in cryptocurrencies. Well, you know what? Working class people want in on the game too, right? Mm-hmm. We see adoption happening with, Black and Latinx communities. Well, these working class people, they would like their paychecks in crypto. Obviously, the industry is not there yet, but we can make it possible for people to have their paychecks direct deposited, at least a portion of it, in a crypto account, backed by a stable coin, which probably makes sense. I know, the Bitcoiners out there are outraged, but if we start with products that are backed by stable coins, Circle is building a lot of products like this that might help to facilitate this. We can make sure that the public that's fueling adoption is also able to participate. And I don't think by any means that making it easier for people to have portions of their paycheck direct deposit into crypto accounts is too much to ask.
Absolutely. I mean, I'm at Abra, we see just so many people looking to deposit parts of their salary directly into our high yield accounts. They're earning 8 to 13% on dollars, and they obviously can't do that with a traditional bank. And it's a great way to have kind of almost a forced savings account and then move a portion of that into Bitcoin and Ethereum as well to get kind of the upsides. So I saw a Forbes article mentioned, and I'll quote here, "Without a seat at the Wall Street and regulatory table representing the interests of the Black crypto community," and in parentheses here, I'll say blockchain and crypto could end up being restrictive. Now, can you speak more about this issue and how not having representation at the regulatory level could be problematic for the community?
Yes. Obviously, the diversity, equity, and inclusion is important. We have to make sure the crypto industry does not replicate the missteps of traditional tech, right? So we have to hold industry accountable, absolutely. And I'm excited about the work that I'm doing with the Blockchain Association and how Kristen Smith there has empowered me. But we also have to hold government accountable, specifically, Washington accountable. And so what we've seen is, a lot of policies that foster inequity. One of them that we talk a lot about is the SEC's accredited investor rule. Absolutely. Right? It's a way to keep people of color, Black people, Black women out of building wealth. And that's a huge problem. And then also, I want to point your listeners and viewers to Professor Chris Brummer, I think in 2020 did this report. It's called FinTech's Diversity Problem. And he pointed out that within the regulatory agencies alone, the lack of diversity in terms of the heads of these agencies. That means there are not people at the table leading these agencies who have a diverse perspective. So they're using old data sets and old metrics. If we want different results, if we want an inclusive economy, we can't just hold industry accountable. We have to hold Washington accountable too.
Yep. Yeah, I agree. I think your comment, especially on the SEC and accredited investor rules, first of all, it's completely arbitrary. There's no law that they're basically implementing. It's completely arbitrary and made up. The idea that you can walk into a casino as a working class Black person and put all of your salary irresponsibly on black or red, whatever, and walk out with no money, but you can't responsibly invest in something like a hedge fund with a track record of performance is nutty to me. And this affects millions of Americans. I just don't get that. What do you think are the biggest kind of, or what do you think some of the most interesting crypto projects, coins, or tokens that you've seen lately that maybe you're excited about personally or via your work?
Yeah, I think there's a lot of exciting things happening. Obviously, the NFT craze, a lot of FOMO there, a lot of hype. But when you look at America's creative industries, local economies, cities have been looking to smart cities and really looking at industries to foster, growth. And, NFTs has been a part of that. So, I would like to see us look beyond the celebrities and the athletes and really look at it as a, creative economies approach, smart cities, help mayors to figure out how to boom their creative industries. I love Web3. I'm excited about what's happening at the Filecoin Foundation and others. I think people underestimate how much people of color, Black communities rely on social media and are consumers of these projects, and we have to do better. We need a decentralized web that actually protects consumers, but also make sure that the users can actually benefit more. At the Blockchain Association, I'm actually working with the Filecoin Foundation. They are about to launch an initiative with my alma mater, Howard University, HU. Okay. And the initiative is really to work with the Howard's Business School to teach Web3, not just for students, but to faculty as well, and to help them develop a curriculum that makes sense. And I know we're going to talk about some of the challenges, but one of the biggest challenges is education. And I'm excited that I'm actually working with Josh Mendelson at Hanger and Katie Biber at Brex and Kristen Smith at the Blockchain Association. We're actually going to be launching an industry-wide initiative to help with the education piece. So more to come on that.
Okay. Wow. Super interesting. So look, where can people go to find out more about, is it blockchainassociation.org, or what is the website?
Yes, it is theblockchainassociation.org, but they can also find me on Twitter. I'm at @CMesi. They can also check out my book, shameless plug, The Clevolution. The website is theclevolution.com, and I'm very excited to engage. I want to help foster greater adoption, not just in communities of color, but also with women. Women were the biggest casualties of COVID, professional women specifically, professional women of color. So there's a lot to do to educate, engage.
Absolutely. Well, look, thank you so much for joining us, Cleve. We'd love to have you back in a few months and hear about the progress on the projects you're talking about. We should also at some point talk about our shared work in Haiti and when we originally met, and what could be done with things like stable coins and other technologies to make money movement easier. And I look forward to having you back on in the future. But thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you.
All right. So look, gang, up next, we're going to take a look at what the crypto markets are doing. And we're also going to introduce our new Bitcoin analyst, Natalie Brunell. Plus, I'll share some really cool features and new coins available on the Abra app. And here's a quick video about using Abra. All right, welcome back. Thanks again, Cleve. That was super interesting. So all of us here at Abra are beyond excited to welcome our newest addition to the team, Natalie Brunell. Natalie is our new Money Talks Bitcoin analyst, and she will be covering the bigger picture influences and news about Bitcoin. She's a crypto journalist veteran. She's worked for CNN, ABC. She hosts her own wildly popular podcast, Coin Stories. I've gotten to know Natalie in the crypto community over the years, and I'm super impressed. She always is, just super interesting to listen to. So without further ado, let's get to it. So take it away, Natalie.
Hi, Bill. Thank you so much for having me. Super excited to join you on Money Talks for some of the latest developments in Bitcoin and what I'm following. Now, first of all, the price has remained pretty choppy in the mid to high 30s, and this really isn't a surprise because of the bigger macroeconomic picture. We had a pretty significant correction in the markets that seemed to bottom around January 24th, with growth stocks and equities across the board tumbling, and of course, taking Bitcoin down with them. Now, largely, I think this was due to investors anticipating what the Fed is going to do as far as tapering and tightening to fight inflation. And the market seemed to be pricing in one of several small rate hikes, about 25 basis points each that the Fed has planned for this year. But after equities and of course crypto saw this recent sell-off, some of us are expecting the Fed to do an about face and turn more dovish, which of course means more quantitative easing and debt creation. Now, what does that mean for Bitcoin? Look, Bitcoin has been correlated in the last 2 years, at least in part, with equities and has been largely driven by liquidity. The more stimulus, the more demand for the asset, the higher the price goes. And large institutions did start to come in with MicroStrategy, Block, formerly Square, and Tesla putting Bitcoin on their balance sheets. But many companies are still trying to figure out how to interact with this asset. And without a spot ETF approved, there really aren't enough avenues that facilitate institutional adoption, getting those big companies and pension funds on board. That's what I think is missing for a six-figure Bitcoin. And of course, with the Fed's taper talk, demand overall has certainly dried up. But looking forward, on-chain fundamentals for Bitcoin are looking incredibly strong. Long-term holders, the strong hands, they're not selling. We're seeing an increase in wallet addresses, and the hash rate, despite geopolitical tensions in Eastern Europe, remain near all-time high levels, which means Bitcoin could be poised for a very strong rally if and when demand resumes. And remember, with Bitcoin, the supply is fixed. So we may see some choppiness and volatility in the short term, but we're almost halfway to the next halving. And I'm very bullish on the next few months because I do not see the Fed being able to taper or raise rates significantly, especially into a slowing economy. I think the Fed is chasing its tail a bit and will need to inject more liquidity. Of course, we've got that midterm election coming up. They want to prevent a recession. And if that happens, that could send Bitcoin rallying. We'll have to see. Aside from the macro picture at large, I'm also following developments on the regulatory front. We're awaiting an executive order related to digital assets from the Biden administration that could be released any day now. That would put the White House in a central role overseeing efforts to set policies and regulate digital assets, including Bitcoin. And there's a lot of work being done to educate policymakers on Bitcoin and how it differentiates from the other cryptos. In Arizona, they've proposed a bill to make Bitcoin legal tender that was advanced by State Senator, a Republican, Wendy Rogers. And then 3 candidates for Texas governor also proposed to have Bitcoin be recognized as legal tender in Texas. But personally, I think we're still too early to see this type of acceptance and adoption. That would significantly impact Bitcoin's treatment as property, instead sort of going into that realm of currency. But these are also very bullish signs of adoption by US politicians, adding, of course, to city mayors accepting Bitcoin as salary payments. And we've also seen the recent hearings in Washington on digital assets, stablecoins, and crypto mining. The other thing I'm also watching for is developments in El Salvador, the first nation to actually legalize Bitcoin as tender, where President Nayib Bukele is always sparking conversations on Twitter for his viral tweets. They usually take a stand against the IMF and central authorities who are against his country's purchase of Bitcoin. If you recall, the credit rating agency Moody's has threatened to downgrade El Salvador's rating, and the IMF and other central banks have denounced the investment. But Bukele stands his ground. He purchased even more Bitcoin actually during the latest correction, and the country is gearing up to issue its Bitcoin-backed bonds to support Bitcoin City, an initiative spearheaded to drive innovation and competition. If you recall, it's a city with no income tax, no property tax, no capital gains tax, with a big focus on attracting entrepreneurs and tourists. In the meantime, Bukele is memeing about working at McDonald's during this price correction, which is really a sign of the times, a president tweeting about McDonald's. And finally, if you haven't checked it out, I would give MicroStrategy's World 2022 videos a viewing. The company, which now holds more than 125,000 Bitcoins, held a conference that included thought-provoking conversations with voices like Block CEO Jack Dorsey and analyst Lynn Alden about Bitcoin. They included overviews of Bitcoin adoption by corporations, as well as macroeconomic outlooks on both Bitcoin and the traditional market. So I highly recommend that content. That's it for me this week. Turning it back to you, Phil.
All right. Thanks, Natalie. Super interesting. We're really excited about having you back on in the coming weeks and getting into a dialogue on all things Bitcoin. So there's a few more stories making headlines in crypto right now. India, you've all heard me rail on the Indian government for their ridiculous attempts to ban Bitcoin, basically being censured by their own Supreme Court telling them to knock it off. Well, what's interesting now, the country is moving towards legalizing crypto. The country's finance minister announced this week that they will begin taxing income from trading cryptocurrencies at NFTs at 30%. I'm not sure I agree with the 30% number, but at least they're embracing reality, which is this is not going away. So India is also going to introduce its own digital rupee controlled by the Indian central bank. And the RBI announced that the coin is going to enter circulation before April of next year. Whoa, that is huge. This is a big deal for a country that introduced a bill banning citizens from trading crypto multiple times, as early as November of last year, right? Or as recently as November of last year. And the CEO of India's largest crypto exchange, a friend of mine, said, this is going to finally put us on the path to legitimizing the crypto sector. I don't know if the government is necessary to legitimize the crypto sector, but it certainly is helpful for them to finally get out of the way. So the development of the digital rupee in particular could certainly legitimize blockchain technology and give much needed recognition to the ecosystem in India. However, the finance minister was quick to point out that Bitcoin and ETH would never become legal tender in India. So finance minister can't leave well enough alone and has to try to rain on the parade. But as I said, and always say, Bitcoin is going to do what Bitcoin is going to do, and Ethereum is going to do what Ethereum is going to do. And yeah, so anyway, at least some good news coming out of India. I'm super excited to see how that evolves. India is a massive, massive market. And I think 20% of crypto volume could make its way to India in literally in 12 to 18 months. We'll see what happens. Interesting shift out of the IRS here in the US. Cryptocurrency stakers and proof of stake miners basically are now going to be able to receive their staking income tax-free until they sell. And so a couple filed a lawsuit after paying more than $3,000 in taxes for almost 9,000 tokens they had earned. They refused the IRS offer for a rebate, and a court date is scheduled for 2023 unless the case is settled during the discovery phase. So in addition to a refund, the couple is seeking a formal policy statement from the IRS to clarify the tax law. I think they're going to win. So we'll see. Or I think there's going to be a settlement, or they're going to clarify the law or something to that effect. But I'm super bullish on all of this. Okay, so we need to talk a little bit about crypto wallet security. There is a new malware threat. If you use MetaMask, Coinbase Wallet, Nifty Wallet, or any of these 30 other or 50 other kind of custodial, self-custodied wallets where you're holding your keys, there's this new malware called Mars Stealer, and it works by grabbing your private keys and then stealing your holdings. So some of the most popular browsers like Chrome, Microsoft Edge, and Brave are all affected. Firefox and Opera don't suffer from these extension attacks, but they're still vulnerable to credential hacking. So be really careful. If you don't know how to use these browser extensions correctly, there's a couple of videos you can watch online that show you how to do it. But again, please be careful, be vigilant and diligent when you are installing third-party software, especially as it relates to crypto. And that's why at Abra, we really try to give a safe and easy environment for using this stuff. All right, so we're going to switch gears and discuss some really interesting regulatory news in a move that could be big news for a spot ETF in the US. The SEC has asked Bitwise to clarify how the firm will prevent share manipulation, fraud, and other potential issues in its proposed spot Bitcoin exchange traded fund. This is almost a 180 from the agency's blanket denials of spot ETF applications from WisdomTree, Krypton, Skybridge, and Fidelity. It's crazy. I mean, you've heard my opinion on this. Anyway, we'll see how this plays out and what this means for the future of Bitcoin exchange traded funds. But the idea that the SEC is actually starting to dig in and ask some questions is actually kind of a new development. And so who knows, they may learn something and change their mind and accept the fact that that a spot ETF is what they should have approved in the first place instead of this nonsensical futures-based product, which is really bad for consumers. Okay, so up next, I'm going to pull up some charts and tell you what I think is happening in the crypto markets. We'll talk about the Fed, but we want Abra to be the safest, easiest, and most reliable crypto app available. Here's a quick video on how easy it is to use Abra to trade.
Trading on Abra is easy. Just click the exchange button. Tap the source you'd like to trade. Tap on what you'd like to trade it for. Type in the amount. Then click trade. Tap, type, trade. Totally easy on Abra.
All right, so before we get into the market news, I want to share some exciting product news and updates with everyone. And so first, and this is big, our improved trading spreads are here to stay. Let me try that again. Our improved trade spreads are here to stay. So we made some big improvements to Abra Trade that allow us to offer all of our users lower buy prices and higher sell prices, which makes Abra an even better platform for trading crypto. So you'll know what I mean if you just go in and try to buy some Bitcoin, and you'll see that the price you're getting is even better than it was a couple of weeks ago. So we're also extending the window for cashback trading in the Abra app. So trade any of our 100+ listed cryptocurrencies and you get 1% cash back. This limited time offer ends on Monday, February 7th. So don't miss your chance to trade and earn rewards. So next, I want to remind you all that we now have recurring transactions. That's right, recurring transactions are now available in the Abra app. This has been one of the most requested features for a long time. The team did a great job on making this super simple. We talked about this a bit last week, but it bears repeating because this is going to make buying crypto super easy. And we're already seeing a lot of you signing up for this. And I'm seeing some questions in the chat about how recurring transactions work. Recurring transactions gives you the ability to automate how much and how frequently you invest in crypto. To enable this feature, you just need to choose the crypto you want to buy, choose an amount, and then choose how frequently you want to buy the asset, daily, weekly, or monthly. Abra will repeat the purchase until you decide to change it or cancel it. What's more, we built dollar cost averaging into recurring transactions, which lets you mitigate the risk of fluctuating crypto market prices so you don't lose money on your investments. Here's how it works. Open up the Abra app, click on Add Money, click on Bank ACH Transfer. Once you're on that screen, you can choose the asset you want to buy and the amount. And so now, right below the amount, you'll see Schedule. And you can set the amount and frequency, daily, weekly, monthly, for your recurring transactions. Here's the next big update. So we've added new coins and tokens in the Abra app. So US users can now purchase Aave, AAVE, and Avalanche, AVAX, on the Abra platform. So that's excellent news. Fans of AVAX and Aave are among the top 50 cryptocurrencies by market cap and have a growing list of investors. So we'll have more exciting product news and updates in the coming weeks. Stay tuned to Money Talks to be the first to learn about these new releases. All right, so now let's move on to the market analysis. So first, should we be bracing for the US economy to slow down? Economists are starting to say yes. The US economy's growth outpaced expectations at the end of 21. Increased consumer activity, private inventory investment led to the US economy having its strongest year since 1984. However, as we begin February 2022, growth has slowed. The continuing pandemic, specifically the spread of variants like Omicron, supply chain disruptions, the fear over rising interest rates has slowed the economy basically to almost a crawl, right? CNBC actually had a fantastic article last week on this. And, basically the nutshell here is, or the net of this is that most kind of macro economists are lowering expectations for 2022 growth. With inflation well above 2%, well above 2%, a strong labor market, the US is effectively at full employment. The committee expects, the Fed Open Market Committee expects it will soon be appropriate to raise the target range for the federal funds rate. This is what the central bank said in a statement that concluded its two-day meeting last week. Now, this is scary stuff because this means that we have rising prices, we have a slowing economy, right? And we have full employment. That means that raising interest rates will likely push the economy into recession at some point. We're not there yet. And I think this is super bullish for stocks and for crypto, and I'll explain why in a second. But Chairman Powell also added that he believed that the Fed could move on a very aggressive path. He said, I think there's quite a bit of room to raise interest rates without threatening the labor market. That may be true, but I'm not sure. I'm not so sure. Anyway, the committee statement came in response to inflation running at its hottest level in nearly 40 years. So though the move toward less accommodative policy has been well telegraphed, markets in the last couple of weeks have been remarkably choppy as investors worried that the Fed might tighten policy even more than expected. Okay, so look, my take is that the Fed has overshot the mark already, just in terms of the expectations that they're setting if their goal is to avoid recession. I don't necessarily agree with the Fed's goals, but their stated goals are clear, right? Full employment, stable economy, low inflation. All right. So what does this mean for crypto assets? Well, what I think it means is that the Fed is going to have to slow down expectations or the pace at which they tighten if the economy starts to slow, which the likes of Goldman and others said is already happening. Okay, which means that risk on assets, stocks, crypto in particular, are going to reinflate, which in English means they're going to recoup the gains that they lost and probably go even further than that in the coming weeks. So my prediction is that you're going to see a significant rise in asset prices this year. Now, this is also consistent with what happens when you're moving into a phase of the economy where you're trying to set expectations for rate hikes. Let me explain what I mean. So traditionally what happens is when rates are going up, significantly, or at the peak of rates, stocks tend to come down and bonds do the reverse. However, when you're starting to set expectations about rate hikes, usually the market gets a little bit jittery because people think the party's almost over. But the reality is rates are still at zero. So you can talk about expectations all you want, but the money for most companies is still basically free. Okay. And even if the Fed raises rates 4 times, you're talking about interest rates of 1 to 1.5% tops, which is still pretty cheap, if not nearly free money. So the point is that the economy is still going to move ahead, but it's going to do so at a slower rate. So what that means is that tech companies, right, the growth companies are still going to make money. A lot of other companies that are cyclical are actually going to slow down, right? And so this means that the Fed is running out of tools that they can use to create a soft landing. But it also means that growth stocks and risk on assets like crypto are highly likely to go up significantly in price as the Fed continues to put on the brakes. And then at some point, we'll end up with what we call an inverted yield curve, and that could lead to recession. Okay, so we're not quite there yet, but that's what I think is happening. All right. So the thing I want to talk about is Ethereum. I've been asking myself this question a lot lately. And the question, of course, is Ethereum significantly undervalued right now? I actually came across a tweet storm by Sean Puri, who's a well-known entrepreneur, investor, podcast host. He did the math and posted on Twitter that he thinks Ethereum is undervalued by at least 4x. Now that's interesting because he did this based upon the math of cash flows and not network effects. I've often looked at network effects, and cash flows is interesting because it gives you a very concrete way of thinking about the value of course, an asset, a stock or a bond, or in this case, Ethereum. Sean mentioned that every ETH transaction has a fee. Those fees get broken now after the latest upgrade to Ethereum. They get broken down into two parts. 70% is the base fee. It's like paying for food at a restaurant. And the tip fee is the other 30%, like tipping your waiter. So where does that revenue go? The base fee gets burned. In other words, there is no restaurant. The fee just goes up in smoke. And that reduces the supply of Ethereum, which in theory should drive prices up. The same way many companies buy back their stock and get rid of it to drive up the stock prices is similar to what's happening with this base fee getting burned. So tens of millions of dollars in ETH are getting burned every day. The tip fee will be paid back to long-term ETH holders or stakers as a dividend when ETH 2.0 launches later this year. Crypto quant investor and Harvard business alum Ryan Alice has created a model that puts the value of ETH at about $10,000. His model assumes a 25% growth rate, a 35x PE ratio, which is the average of the S&P 500. Any model is only as good as its assumptions, and there's clearly a couple of risks that are hard to ignore, right? What happens if the majority of transactions move to layer 2? What if other layer 1s like Solana flip ETH? Anyway, as some have stated, no matter what happens, Ethereum has proven to be more than just pure speculation, right? Ethereum is where it's at in terms of crypto use cases right now. It's getting all the money for, or most of the money as it relates to stable coins, as it relates to NFTs, as it relates to DeFi. It's truly astounding what Ethereum has built. Ethereum has real cash flow at the same time that can be used in a fundamental analysis. Natalie's Bitcoin analysis was spot on. Here's what I'll add. Bitcoin still seems to be stuck in a bit of a plateau. Anyway, here's what I think is going on and what might be right around the corner. So let me switch here to my trusty charts and give you my what's around the corner perspective. So now today is interesting, right? So Bitcoin is up about 8% today. So I'm gonna zoom in here a little bit. My daily, right? So on my daily chart, you can see we've clearly we were in this kind of, I call this a wall of worry. Let me show you what my wall of worry looks like. The short-term wall of worry was basically here, right? And that's resistance. Now we just broke through this wall of worry resistance. This is Ethereum right at 2,900 or yeah, right at around 2,900. On Bitcoin, we had a similar wall of worry, which not as steep, but still there. And Bitcoin basically, let me just fix this so that it's as close to accurate as I can get. And here, so Bitcoin more or less broke through this wall of worry at about 3930 or 39,300 and is now at 40,000. So an 8% rise for today. Now we need to get a sustained close above this wall of worry. Or meaning if we come back down to 39.4, what that would tell me is the wall of worry is still holding, and I expect a retracement down to 37,000. But if we can sustain this above 40,000, the next step would be to retrace these losses. And I think what happens if that happens is that you're going to see futures positions getting squeezed, which could propel us way back into the 50s in February. I would not be surprised. My base case for Bitcoin right now is a spring-loaded move higher as a result of the expectations that the economy is not going to be moving as fast forward as the Fed thinks. They may have to taper expectations. Investors are going to realize that there's still a lot of free money pumping into the economy, flowing into the economy. Risk on assets, stocks, crypto are going to reinflate. That is my base case expectation for the coming weeks. Okay, so let me just zoom out here again, go back to my favorite weekly chart here on Bitcoin, and you can see, right, that we're still effectively at a higher low, which is what you want to see. And if we move this to a log chart, right, over here, which is my favorite chart, we're still in this channel. We're at the bottom of the channel, and I still expect to see new highs this year. I would be shocked if Bitcoin broke the channel to the downside. It would really need to break below 29K. I don't see it happening. Anything is possible. Anything is possible. I'm not here to tell you what's going to happen with the price of Bitcoin. I'm just reading the macros, and the macros are telling me that the markets look really long midterm bullish this year, just based upon what I'm seeing out of the Fed, what I'm seeing from high net worth investors, whales, massive accumulation happening right now in the spot markets. Let me explain what I mean by that. Right now, and if you follow a few different folks like Willy Woo and a couple of others online, they'll explain to you that right now we're in a very significant accumulation mode, which is basically a combination of weak hands moving to strong hands, which is what happens when the price falls, and which is what we saw from November through late January. And two, we're seeing a significant amount of Bitcoin moving off of exchanges. Okay, that is bullish, because if it's not on an exchange, generally it's not being sold. Okay, all right. So the price of CPRX, many of you have been asking me about CPRX. Let me go to the 1 hour. CPRX has been pretty flat for the last few weeks. Certainly the last 2 or 3 weeks, the price has been hovering around 5.5 to 5 to 6 cents, let's say. So if I go back out, all the way to mid January, it looks like we're at about, I can go all the way back to the 21st to 22nd of January. And we've been hovering right around that 0.053 cents per CPRX for a couple of weeks. Personally, disclosure, I've been buying CPRX. I'm very bullish on it right now. I'm excited because of where I think the CPRX currency is going. I'm not shilling it. I'm not pumping it. I'm just telling you why I'm excited. Make your own decisions. Invest responsibly. But I am very excited about the future of CPRX. I'm excited about how we're going to be using it at Abra. I'm excited about what I think is going to be happening with other crypto projects and grants via the Crypto Banking Alliance. And so we'll see. But no guarantees. But like I said, I am definitely accumulating CPRX for the future. I'm very bullish on it, and you can make your own decisions there. All right. So as you can see here, we're seeing significant price gains across the board today. Let's see, GBTC maybe still in the Grayscale Trust is trading at a heavy discount to Bitcoin. It was approaching 30% last week, which is crazy high discounts. If by some miracle a spot ETF were approved, that discount would probably go to zero, and those people holding the Grayscale Trust would make money. But I don't like the Grayscale Trust as a product. It's very expensive. The premium discount swings are too wild for my taste. And there's much better ways, including Abra, to get price exposure to Bitcoin. Okay, let's see. What else do we have here that's moving? Let me look at the percent changes. We've got, let me flip this. So we've got AVAX. AVAX is up 11% today. Mentioned that we now support AVAX in the Abra app. We can see that it bounced off of the kind of short-term lows in early, let's say midday yesterday, and is now up significantly. Let's say it's up, 15% since yesterday. So that's a big move for AVAX. 11% today, about 15% since yesterday. So looking really good. Again, it's at the top of this kind of what I call wall of worry channel. If we can get a sustained move past this wall of worry, I would want to see it in the probably 78 to 80K range on a daily close. I might consider actually buying AVAX for a trade. Looking super interesting. So that's one. Let's see, what else do we have here that looks interesting to me? Let's see what's happening with Digibyte. Digibyte has been in this channel for a while. Let me go to the daily here. So, sorry. Yeah, so we've got big retracements for Digibyte from the highs down to about 2.5 cents. Been in this sideways channel. No tradable movement yet. So if you're bullish on Digibyte, it's a good accumulation spot probably. But if you're trading it, I would wait for a sustained move above 3 cents. That's my reading of the tea leaves on Digibyte. So yeah, let's see. So a couple of other things before we get to the AMA. Let me go back to the discussion on CPRX. A couple of updates there. We will be adding CPRX to Abra Earn, so that is coming soon. And I know we've also got a lot of questions on that, so that addresses the AMA part of the Abra Earn discussion. And let me bring back up Bitcoin here. Yep, still holding steady at 40,400. So yeah, so it will definitely be in February. I don't have the exact date, but it will be in February. Okay, so stay tuned for that. We'll be announcing the details on what you'll be receiving for staking CPRX and Abra Earn in February. Hopefully sooner in February as opposed to later. Okay. All right. So let's see. What else did I want to talk about on the price front? Why don't I do some questions, and I'll close the chart for now. Let's shut this off. I'm going to do, actually, you know what? Before I get to the questions, and I may have some more comments on the price, but let me just show you how you can earn some free crypto here. So there's a way for you and a friend can earn free CPRX. As I mentioned, CPRX is our utility token we use here at Abra. It's going to be used by other projects. I'm personally super excited about it. And we'll give you $25 in CPRX for free when you refer a friend, and they'll get $25 too. So here's how it works. All right, welcome back. So I'm going to take some questions, and if we have some time, we may go back to the charts, but I've got a lot of questions teed up here. So thank you all for the great questions as always. Got a lot of nice comments on Cleve joining us. Thanks again for that segment. That was a lot of fun. Let's see. What should we start with? What are my feelings on XRP? So it's an interesting question, right? So as many of you know, there's this kind of ongoing lawsuit between the United States SEC and the company Ripple. And the company Ripple and the crypto asset XRP are not the same, or at least that's what the company Ripple wants us to believe. I don't really have a strong opinion on the lawsuit, except it probably is not going to succeed just because they waited so long to sue them. So If the SEC either drops that lawsuit or loses, I expect the price of XRP to skyrocket, right? To certainly, at least initially. The other thing that's interesting about XRP is that it has very low fees for person-to-person on-chain transfers, meaning that if you want to move crypto and you don't want to do it using small amounts of crypto, I should say. If you want to move, like, let's say $25, it may not be viable to do it in Bitcoin or Ethereum, but it is viable to do it in XRP. So Nicanor, to your question, I think that XRP is interesting because you can do very small dollar transfers with it at very low cost, and then move back into Bitcoin on the receiving end. So for example, I know many of you do this. Let's say you need to transfer crypto into Abra, and it's a small amount. You might move it into XRP, convert it, move it into Abra, and then convert it back into Bitcoin. In Abra, we support XRP in most countries, just not in the US. And again, not our choice. I think we should be supporting it. It's a problem with our custodian and trading partners. Hopefully they will add it back in the future. Okay. So that's XRP. Ryan asks, isn't ETH 2.0 dead? Ryan, ETH 2.0 is not only not dead, it's looking quite good. I think we are going to get to proof of stake this year. I think that the price of Ethereum has a lot of upside. I think that's, again, just my opinion. I'm buying it. It's one of my largest holdings now. And if you look at how Ethereum is being used, I think it's super bullish. All right. Tyler asks, will CPRX be discussed? Tyler, I've been talking about CPRX. I mentioned that we're going to be launching staking on Abra Earn for CPRX. I mentioned that it's going to be used in almost all of the new features that we launched for Abra this year. And we have a lot of announcements coming up for CPERX. Zoroaster asks if CPRX will be listed on any more exchanges. I believe it will be. I don't control other exchanges. I know other exchanges have been looking at it. I don't control that process. I'm not directly involved, but my understanding is that many exchanges are looking at it, and I would be shocked if it wasn't listed on more exchanges this year. Peter says more Digibyte. Well, I don't know how. I'm not giving away Digibyte, but if there's something specific that I can do for the Digibyte community, you'll please let me know here in the show chat. Let's see what else. Jolly says Abra can do miracles. Well, I don't know about that, but we certainly have an awesome team here, and they've been kicking ass and bringing out amazing new features. Hapa asks, is there a limit amount in trading CPRX with other cryptos? Yes, there is for now. This limit will be lifted, in the coming weeks, so you won't have those limits anymore. I don't have an exact date for that, but it is coming. We're going to be releasing limit orders, and when that happens, you should be able to, you should be able to trade in unlimited amounts, and I'm looking forward to that myself. Okay, Rob asks, did I listen to the interview between Jack and Michael Saylor? And what are my thoughts on their views of the Lightning Network and Facebook? So I've heard Michael Saylor talk many times about using Bitcoin as effectively gas for social media. I get a lot of spam accounts pretending to be me on social media. Now, Michael Saylor gets this at a whole other level. I mean, it is insane. Like every 15 seconds, there's a new impersonator account for him on social media, which makes a lot of what he does very difficult to navigate, and the scams out there are just insane. So his idea is that basically you can use microtransactions via the Lightning Network to validate your own posts on social media, given that it would be too expensive. Right now, it's free for scammers. It costs nothing to make pretend you're someone else and post on Facebook or Twitter. But in theory, using the Lightning Network, you could make it more expensive or untenable for scammers if it's expensive enough to make pretend that there's someone else on social media. I don't think Lightning scales enough yet to support that concept, but if and when it does, I think it's a great idea, and we'll see what happens. But it is a very compelling idea. I don't agree with Jack that if Bitcoin was around, that Twitter would have looked very differently today. Bitcoin is not yet ready for the kind of consumer scalability inherent in Twitter and Facebook and Instagram. If there were 1 billion people trying to use Bitcoin on chain or via Lightning right now, it simply wouldn't work, at least not yet. We will get there. I'm very bullish, as I've said in past shows, with where Lightning is going and its future, but it's a work in progress. Okay, so, but it is a great idea that Michael has, and I'm glad that he's pushing this idea for using Lightning within social media. All right, so A. Praskovich asks, what kind of actions am I expecting from Biden's executive order regarding crypto? It's pretty clear from what we've heard what is going to happen. It appears that what they're going to do is they're going to form exploratory committees. That's what the government does. And they'll basically have anywhere from 12 to 18 months to report back to the administration on very specific actions that they may want to take, either directly via executive order, if they can, or via Congress with new laws that would, in their mind, I guess, rein in crypto. But in the short term, it probably means more talk, more meetings, more hearings, more research, more reports. In the midterm, we'll see. Honestly, if you want to know my opinion, I expect absolutely nothing to come of this. Okay. Let's see. Is Bitcoin held in Abra considered off exchange? I feel Abra is different, but I'm not knowledgeable enough to know. Husker X, that is a great question. When you put Bitcoin into Abra Earn to earn yield, it is not on an exchange. Okay, so it is off exchange. If you move it back to Abra Trade in order to buy or sell, yes, it would be considered on exchange just while it's in Abra Trade. But when you move it to Abra Earn, or if you use it as collateral for Abra Borrow, it is not on an exchange. Okay, so hopefully that makes sense. Great question, by the way. So you've heard me talk about supply shocks being caused by Bitcoin moving off of exchanges, and Abra Earn definitely is one of the beneficiaries of that. John asks, if CPerks goes to Earn, does that affect the average monthly balance for the loyalty tiers? John, I don't know the answer to that exactly. I think the answer is no, but I will confirm that. And if somebody from the team wants to publish that here, they can. The loyalty tiers themselves will probably end up changing over time from the initial promotional levels that were very low. And so those of you who got in early should get a big advantage versus people who may join later, but we'll see where that goes. Alan asks, could I talk a little bit about the US digital currency and where is Abra regarding retirement accounts? So Alan, I don't think we're anywhere regarding a US digital currency at this point. I think there's a lot of talk amongst different research groups within different Federal Reserve banks. And I think that basically private stable coins a la Circle and Trust Token and others are going to win, Paxos, all of which we support in Abra. They're very safe. They use Ethereum for the most part, which is proven, never been hacked, at least not the the ERC20 contract that is used for stable coins. And so I'm very skeptical that the US is going to figure out a digital currency in the next couple of years. I could be wrong, but I don't think it really matters much because it doesn't stop them from printing more money. It just makes that money available in digital form as opposed to paper form. So it's the monetary policy that's the problem, not the technology. Okay. And where is Abra regarding retirement accounts? Alan, that's a great question. We are looking very, very hard at IRAs and retirement accounts. It's something that I definitely want Abra to be doing. I don't have an announcement except to say we are looking very hard at it. It's something that I want for myself, my team wants. And so certainly on the US side, we will, I would venture to go on a limb and say we will figure out retirement accounts. I just don't have a date or an exact announcement for you about how it will work. All right. Ralph is in orbit, making his way to the moon. Right on. That's it's definitely a good, noble goal. QMS asks, Why were the interest rates reset to 8% for US dollar stablecoins? So QMS, this basically functions like any other bank, right? So there's borrow demand, there's deposit demand, and so there's a balance between the rates that we can generate in a safe and sound manner on the borrow side that effectively determine how much we can pay you in interest on the deposit side. Okay, and right now, the effective safe rate that we can pay there is 8% in dollars plus up to 5% in CPERC. So you're actually getting up to 13% depending upon your status level and your status level within Abra Perks. But it's mostly based upon what's happening in the lending markets for crypto. Okay, I'm going to take two more questions. We're at 10 o'clock, a long show today. Let's see. Nikita mentions Jed McCaleb would be an interesting choice for thoughts on both XLM and or XRP. You know what? That's a really good idea. I should reach out to Jed and see if he's interested in coming on, especially if we think we're going to get a settlement. You know, he's a really interesting character, and I like Jed. So Dan mentioned if I wanted to discuss the rate changes, I just did. Those are driven by borrow rates and demand on the borrow side. And so we're constantly looking at those. Let's see, what else? Nick asks, what new coins will be added to Abra Earn aside from CPERCs? That is a great question, Nick. How you doing, bud? So we will be adding several tokens in the coming weeks to Abra Earn. I can't announce what they are yet, but I'm pretty excited about it. And you may like what you see there. Okay, so stay tuned for that. And Cecile asks, is Abra wallet secured like Binance? So Cecile, Abra uses what we call 2FA, two-factor authentication, for moving crypto out of Abra. And so that should prevent, in most instances, anybody from being able to steal your crypto. So you need to go into the Abra wallet, go into the menu, and go into the security settings and turn on 2FA I use Authy. Some of you use Google Authenticator. Whatever you use, please use it and turn on 2FA in Abra. It totally secures your wallet from outside hacks. Okay. Yeah, so let's stop there. It's already 2 minutes after. We're going on 62-minute show today. Thank you, Natalie. Thank you, Cleve. Thank you to the Abra team for the great work as always. Have a great weekend, everyone. Let's see if we can keep the crypto pump going here. We're at almost 10% up on the day for Ethereum. Like I've told you, I'm very bullish on Ethereum. It's looking good. But in the meantime, we'll watch where it goes and we'll report back next weekend. In the meantime, have a great weekend and we'll see you next week on Money Talks. Peace.